Well, good evening again, everyone. Thanks for joining us. I'm Clare Lopez with Lopez Liberty, LLC, and here with you for another episode of Sharia Crime Stoppers. What I wanted to talk to you about tonight is a bit of a scoop for you. I just penned a new op-ed piece for Front Page Magazine, the fourth in the series I've been writing there, about what is going on with the Marxist, communist, Islamic front linked Black Lives Matter movement. And this latest one is not even yet published. It probably will go up one of the days later this week, I expect. But I thought to give you a preview of it. I do focus in on California just because I have a connection there. But just take away from this that what you're seeing is really applicable to so many places in schools around the entire country. It's not just California, although these examples that I'm going to show you tonight are mostly from California. So we're going to call this one California Schools Kowtow to the Black Lives Matter movement Marxist agenda. Now, keep in mind that even as the Black Lives Matter movement is self-avowedly Marxist, established by three African-American self-avowed Marxist women, Alicia Garza, Opal Tometi, and Patrisse Cullors, as long ago as 2015, late 2015, December, CARE, Council on American Islamic Relations, and its executive director, Nihad Awad, speaking to a convention of the Muslim Brotherhood that month, late in December of 2015, openly acknowledged and pledged support to, backing for, loyalty to the Black Lives Matter movement. So you can see how this is all linked together and why I often call this the red, black, green axis and street insurrection. This, though, tonight is very specifically about the schools, what's going on inside the schools. So let me start by noting that in California, the fall semester has just begun, as in many other places. Most of the schools, probably just about all the schools in California, are in session online, doing distance learning. But as I've mentioned before, I think on this program, because it's online, and especially for the younger students, let's say K through 12, or certainly the elementary school level, this has been really helpful in an awakening kind of a way for the parents, who themselves, many are still stuck at home on lockdown, but they're there filling in for the teachers, or at least supervising their younger children, as I said, particularly the elementary school grades, supervising them with their online lessons, right? And this gives the parents an opportunity to observe these lessons, the curricula, the syllabuses, the resource material, reading assignments, and all of that. As Mary was just mentioning before we came on with you all, there's even a school district, and I forget exactly where it is, maybe some of you will remember, a school district that has openly sent around to parents a form, a pledge to sign, that the parents will pledge not to look over their children's shoulder or observe the lessons that the children are being given online. Can you imagine? I think that even alone probably gets a lot of parents' attention. Like, even if they hadn't been paying attention so much maybe before, now they see, you want me to sign what? I'm not supposed to look at what my child is learning. What are you teaching? What is it that you don't want them, me to see from their lessons? So what I'm going to show you tonight has gotten the attention of a lot of parents out in California, and because they're online lessons now. Now, the flagship courses that are causing so much concern with parents, for that indoctrination, there's just no other word for this. It is pure indoctrination. A lot of it is openly Marxist, communist. But the flagship set of courses for that go under the label of ethnic studies. Now, you might say, well, that sounds rather neutral and okay. But Governor Gavin Newsom of California just recently signed a bill. This is just last week, signed into law a bill in California that makes an ethnic studies course, a requirement for graduation from any California state university. And that's at the university level, beginning next year, with the next school year, the 21-22 academic school year. Now, as I said, you might think at first glance, well, ethnic studies, we can learn about the cultures of, the indigenous people of America, Native Americans. We can learn about the various groups of settlers and immigrants who've come here, and that sounds more or less okay. But this is not really about e pluribus unum, okay? It is actually not that kind of a broad-based, neutral, inclusive overview of American diversity. So let us take a look at what the California state curricula really looks like. Now, I'm going to be focusing in at the high school level in particular, but this extends as well lower grades from, let's say, K through 8 or so, and as well also, obviously, at the university level. Now, I want to bring your attention back to something I've talked about before, but I'm going to remind again, and in case there are viewers on with us that may not have seen this before, and I wanted to bring back to your attention again this book, The Naked Communist, written in 1958 by former FBI agent W. Cleon Skousen. It's called The Naked Communist. And the content of that book, as I've said before, and especially what we're going to zero in on here, the content was compiled by this former FBI agent, W. Cleon Skousen, from testimony given in front of Congress in the 1950s, in earlier parts, the earlier part of the 1950s, in front of Senator Joseph McCarthy's subcommittee, and then also his counterpart in the House of Representatives, the House on Un-American Activities Committee. Now, I want to focus the attention, as I have before, on chapter 13 of that book. That chapter 13 is entitled The 45 Goals of Communism Today. And it lists 45 goals that the author, Skousen, gleaned from that testimony in front of Congress, those different committee hearings, as the objectives of communism as he took them from the testimony of former communists who were those testifying in front of those congressional committees. Now, let's zero in on number 17 of those 45 goals. And on that list, number 17 says, quote, "Get control of the schools. Use them as transmission belts for socialism and current communist propaganda. Soften the curriculum. Get control of teachers' associations. Put the party line in textbooks." Close quote. Now, with that in mind, let's go to the Santa Barbara Unified School District of California. And we're going to look especially tonight at a course called English 9 Ethnic Studies. Now, that is a combined course. They also have just plain old English 9, but this is one of those courses that brings together English 9 at the 9th grade high school level and ethnic studies, okay? That's what it's about. So they sent out to the students Parents weren't supposed to see this, but they did. They sent out a very colorful syllabus, which you'll see later this week when Front Page publishes my story, but I'll tell you what it looks like now. This very colorful syllabus for the course was sent to the students as a PowerPoint mid-August this month, 2020, in a set of slides. Now, the first slide shows an image. It's a, I don't want to say a cartoon image, but an artist's image of a classroom, and a very cheerful Miss Powers. And she's wearing sneakers and a t-shirt, a white t-shirt with the Black Power communist fist salute on it. So you get immediately what this course is going to be all about. The Black Power communist fist salute, you know, this one. And in this slide, Miss Powers is waving cheerfully to the students in front of a backdrop that features a lot of things. There's a blackboard, and there are books on shelves, but it also features the Black Lives Matter movement logo, and also a rainbow flag. So you know exactly where this is going. And then the next slide is a list, and she's telling, Miss Powers telling the students a bit about herself. And here's a quote from that, quote, "My name is Nicole Powers. I am a biracial Asian American cisgender female who uses she, her, ella pronouns." That last one, ella, that is she in Spanish, just because this is an English class, you know. So it's a very colorful slide there. And then on down to the next slide in the PowerPoint are listed the units of study for the semester that runs from August to December this year, 2020, broken up by weeks. So week 1 on the list is devoted to community building. Weeks 2 to 5 are about my place in the community. Weeks 6 to 9 are dedicated to protest. Yes, protest. Now, the syllabus doesn't specify exactly if that will include extracurricular activities, you know, on site maybe in Chicago or Portland or, you know, other field trip locations. It just doesn't say. Weeks 10 to 12 are for intersectionality, and weeks 13 to 15 to round out the semester are about stereotypes and internalized racism. Now, yes, this is an English class, but we're not too sure about any actual English language content, because here's something else. I found this. There is something called the Conference on College Composition and Communication. Now, of course, that is at the university level, right? Conference on College Composition and Communication. And that is part of the National Council of Teachers of English. And a month ago, in July 2020, this conference released a document. And in the document, it is, and you can find it at the website. The website is there, Conference on College Composition and Communication. You'll find it. A link to the document. The document demands something called Black linguistic justice. Okay. Now, its rallying cry, which is written on the website, apparently in its preferred style of English, states this, quote, "This ain't another statement. This is a demand for Black linguistic justice, period. Exclamation point," close quote. Now, among the listed demands below that statement are things like demands that quote, this is a quote, "Teachers stop using academic language and standard English as the accepted communicative norm, which reflects," wait for it, white mainstream English, close quote. Another demand, quote, teach Black students about anti-Black linguistic racism and white linguistic supremacy instead. Got that? No longer anything called standardized English. You know, the kind that radio and TV news anchors and broadcasters and, well, speakers are supposed to use and most often do. No, that's white supremacy, you know. That's white privilege to use standard, academically correct English. I can remember back, oh, it's probably third grade, no more than fourth grade, going up to the blackboard, because we still had chalkboards back then, and diagramming sentences. Maybe some of you did this too. You know, we went up and we circled the noun, we circled the verb, we identified the adverb and the adjectives and any pronouns in the sentence, maybe a preposition, object of the preposition. We learned all these parts of speech, and then we learned how to put them together correctly in an English language sentence. And then building on that, we learned how to write paragraphs, and then from paragraphs to essays. We learned all this. Well, I guess that's going to be out the window now. Now, back to Santa Barbara. It seems that they have taken that, you know, conference document that I just quoted to you much to heart. And as I said, although that was aimed at the college level, at the Santa Barbara Unified School District, we are talking at the high school level, but it applies, it carries on down. So, you know, back to the English 9 ethnic studies classes and the PowerPoint that was sent to the students online to describe the class, there was a slide with a lot of images of books that the English 9 ethnic studies class will be reading during this upcoming semester, or maybe the whole year. One of these books is entitled, If I Was Your Girl. Yeah, that's what it says, If I Was Your Girl. So obviously English is straight out the window. A book written by Meredith Russo. I looked it up online, and this book, If I Was Your Girl, it's about a girl in air quotes here, because she used to be a boy at her old school, and the story is about now that she's at this new school, only she's not a boy anymore. Anyway, if you're looking for Moby Dick, the Deerslayer, Tom Sawyer, Huck Finn, Captain's Courageous, Wuthering Heights, not going to be on this syllabus, not going to be in this reading list. No, not to be seen. But A Young People's History of the United States by the communist, very prolific textbook author Howard Zinn, that's there, that's on the reading list. And so is a book called A Queer History of the United States for Young People. I didn't even want to look that one up, by Michael Bronsky. Now, in terms of topics, those are listed too in this course outline for the students. And the fall 2020 semester course outline lists the topics. And so they delve into things like, quote, beneficiaries of privilege in society, and, quote, the role of protest in society, intersectionality, stereotypes, and social justice. And then there's a student writing guide that gives students kind of tips on how to describe. They're going to write essays. Yeah, they actually are going to get to the essays. Who knows what kind of English will be in them, but in any case, they're going to write essays apparently. And so there are these tips, writing tips for the students to help them to describe the ways in which they're privileged or oppressed, to write about concepts of race and cultural and social identity, and what it means to be an American, and whether there even is an American culture. Okay, so where did all of this come from, you may ask? This is breaking on us like some kind of storm surge wave. It feels like sometimes, I think, you know, like Storm Marco. I guess it's down to a tropical storm now. Marco, it's funny, the names of these, that's the name of my future son-in-law. And Laura, which actually may hit the Louisiana coast as a hurricane, maybe a level 2 hurricane, breaking upon us like the waves of these hurricanes. That's what it feels like sometimes, that we're inundated, we're overwhelmed with this stuff. And like, where did all this come from? And I think, you know, it's partly because before the coronavirus and all the lockdown, parents were off at work during the day while their students, children, were in school learning. And there wasn't this opportunity for the parents to observe the syllabus, the reading list, the curriculum. And now there is. And all of a sudden, you know, their eyes are being opened, maybe some of yours too, if you have children in the family, children, grandchildren, nieces, nephews. Maybe you're hearing or realizing about this for the first time too, but a lot of parents are just seeing this for the first time, and they are appalled. They are horrified, they're appalled, and they're angry. And maybe that's what needs to happen. Because unless the school boards, which are elected, by the way, and the, you know, the school administrators hear from these parents, this is going to go on. This is going to intensify. Now, I just asked that question, where did all this stuff come from? Because a lot of people hadn't seen it before. Well, a good place to look online for where this all came from is a website that is called the Black Lives Matter Resource Guide. Yeah, the curricula in these different schools are coming from directly from the Black Lives Matter movement, the communist, the Marxist, the anti-Semitic Black Lives Matter movement. Now, it is published, like I said, online, this resource guide, and you can find it if you would like, or you know, you can find the hyperlink too on my article when it comes out in a couple of days or so. But if you want a head start on it, that Black Lives Matter resource guide is published at a website of a group called the Peace Project. But wait, because here we go with English language again. Peace, the Peace Project, is spelled P-E-A-H-C-E, the Peace Project, okay? That is not a typo. That is how they are online. Anyway, the resource guide is published there, and it includes a list of resource categories, which include, now listen, it's going to sound familiar, I think. The resource categories include white privilege, police brutality, intersectionality, feminism, LGBTQ+, meaning there's more of it, history of slavery / racism, Asian allyship, anti-racism, how media affects our perspective, and white privilege. These are all topic areas for the Black Lives Matter resource guide. Any of that sound familiar? At least some of it, right? Isn't that kind of what we just talked about in terms of the Santa Barbara Unified School District English 9 Ethnic Studies class reading list or subject topic list, I think that's where they got it. They took it directly from there, from Black Lives Matter movement. And in addition, at that website of the Black Lives Matter Resource Guide are many, I mean, a whole list of articles and books and videos, hyperlinked each one, for each of those categories I just gave you. Now, just to be sure that everyone understands under whose domination our schools now operate, let me mention this to you so that it's not just about California. And I don't want to be picking just on California or even on the Santa Barbara Unified School District, although they deserve it. But in any case, this is broader than just there. Let's come all the way out to the East Coast, to Vermont, to the Vermont Essex Westford School District. And the school board for that district just voted unanimously in early August, that is like just before the new school semester began. They voted unanimously that all of its schools will fly a Black Lives Matter flag throughout the 2021 school year. By the way, it will fly alongside of an LGBTQ flag, the two of them. Although in the articles that I looked up about this vote, this decision, I could not find any mention anywhere of whether an American flag or a Vermont state flag would also be flown. Now, you know, as I said before at the beginning, parents are getting the opportunity now, which they hadn't before, to see what's in this curriculum, reading list, syllabuses, and all of the rest that we're going through tonight. And they are upset. A lot of them are very upset. Now, out in Santa Barbara, there is a group called Fair Education Santa Barbara, and you can find that online. It's got a website, Fair Education Santa Barbara, and it was formed back in 2019, including a bunch of parents who even at that point were beginning to realize what was in their students' classroom curriculum and reading lists and resources and all of that. And they banded together, which is what really needs to happen throughout the country. And this is how you step up and confront this stuff. Parents grouping together, Fair Education Santa Barbara. And they began looking things up for themselves, no matter what field they themselves, you know, worked in professionally. They began to do their own homework into things like critical theory, critical race theory, the divisive identity politics that you can see that we've talked about here in these different, you know, classroom exercises tonight. Implicit bias training. You know what that is? Implicit bias training means you're so biased as in a racial way that you don't even know it. It's implicit. You don't even know that you're biased, but you are. Implicit bias training. They're beginning to realize all of this stuff is part of what's being taught to their children. And so they've even hired lawyers. This group, Fair Education Santa Barbara Parents Group, has hired lawyers. They've gone to court to contest the awarding, for example, of a contract, apparently sole source and not provided under bid, you know, fair and equitable bidding process among various contenders. No, it was a sole source award to a group called Just Communities. That's got a website too, if you're interested, Just Communities, that put together all of this curriculum we've been talking about tonight. So the parents out there and the lawyers went to court and they declared in the court filings, the documents, that this kind of training being shoved down their kids' throats is not only divisive, but, quote, discriminatory toward white people, men, and Christians in particular. I think I would add to that also to Jews, because obviously, as we know, the Black Lives Matter movement is viciously anti-Semitic. And the curriculum it teaches, based on its own website program from back in 2016, is very anti-Israel and anti-Semitic. Now, this parents group out in Santa Barbara has got growing support from other Santa Barbara families, parents of students in that school system, the Santa Barbara Unified School District. And so they're in court proceedings that are going on right now. It's in process. Now, there was supposed to be an ethnic studies community forum earlier in August, back the first week of August, where the parents were supposed to be allowed. This would be online. It would be, a webinar format, but the parents were supposed to be allowed to participate and to voice their concerns. Well, that forum was postponed indefinitely at the moment. Now, I will sum this up as I do in the article with a quote from one set of parents of a high schooler in that school system, and this is what they sent me to publish. Quote, "We were horrified to see a dangerously deceptive radical political agenda disguised as an English and ethnic studies class. The Santa Barbara Unified School District is deceitfully and purposefully recruiting our children behind our backs with symbols of communist hate. We are in disbelief that 4 weeks of this class focus on protest, followed by 3 weeks of intersectionality. Clearly, they are recruiting our sweet, innocent children for radical rioting, like we see in Seattle and Portland, and grooming them for lawlessness behind portals made accessible only to the students." End quote. But as we know now, some of those portals have become known or seen by the parents who are speaking up, speaking out, and want their story to be publicized for the rest of the country as an example of what's going on, so that other parents, other families in other school districts across the country realize, number one, what is going on, and very likely in their school districts too, if it's a public school district. But number two, that they're not alone. And that number three, there is a way to fight back, and that is by banding together as a group of concerned parents, not hysterical, not crazy talk, but concerned parents with the curriculum that they can go to their school board and if need be to court to contest what's being taught to their students. The final resort for parents who are really dissatisfied with all of this and get no satisfaction from speaking out to the teachers and the administrators and the school board is, unfortunately, to pull their kids out of the school, or at least out of certain classes. And parents are beginning to do that. Now, this is tough on the kids, especially at a high school level, when your friends mean everything to you. But for the longer term development and healthy development and maturation of these students, this is what needs to be done. So I will leave it there for you tonight. I will urge you, if you would like anyway, to watch for this article of mine to appear at Front Page Magazine. That is the publication edited by Jamie Glazoff and Christine Douglas Williams and Mark Tapson. And it is part of the overall David Horowitz Freedom Center group of organizations. You probably know that Robert Spencer's Jihad Watch is also under that umbrella, that organization of David Horowitz. And anyway, Front Page Magazine coming out a little bit later this week. This will be the fourth in my series. You can go backwards if you're at the website, if you would like to, and see the earlier ones. I began publishing these in June of this year, a couple in June, one in July. This now the fourth will come out here at the end of August. So I thank you very much for listening, for your interest and your attention. And I will turn this back over to Mary and Dick and see if any of you have any questions. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Claire. That was enlightening if you've got children in the public school systems. I'm wondering, do you think because of COVID, if nothing else, do you think homeschooling is starting to grow, and that this just now, I mean, what you're telling us tonight is probably an encouragement for people to never send their kids back to public schools?
Well, at least at a very minimum to pay attention to what's going on in those classes. But yes, homeschooling is increasing. I mean, some parents have no choice, right? But I'll tell you, one of the things, the very creative things that they're doing, and economical, is called pod homeschooling. I think that's what they call it, pod homeschooling, where a group of parents will band together financially and hire together a tutor who then meets with their various, kids in one of the homes, and is responsible for teaching them the classes in homeschooling. So that's one way of handling it. Other times it's the parents themselves doing the teaching, but yes, homeschooling is definitely taking off.
What do you think about Betsy DeVos? Is there any involvement where she should be getting engaged in this and trying to pull that out?
Yeah, she sure should be. I don't know to what extent she is. I'm not seeing it in California anyway. I would think that appeals have been made to her, but I don't see much of a response. I think that overall, the Trump administration and the various cabinet departments and secretaries are so focused on other things. For example, the absolute outright violence in the streets, the rioting, arson, looting that's going on every night, and that coupled with the last weeks of this election year, leading up to the presidential election November the 3rd, may divert their attention from really diving into the full extent of the Black Lives Matter movement, which, yes, I think they begin to realize it's on the streets. It's out there smashing windows and pulling down statues, yeah. But I really don't think they understand, first of all, its completely communist Marxist roots, or then number two, how deeply Black Lives Matter has gotten into the school system. I think I talked maybe earlier in another program with you all about the Black Lives Matter at School, right? That's a website, blacklivesmatteratschool.com. And there's a whole program there and a set of resources and references. So I suspect that at the top levels of our, cabinet departments, I bet they don't really know about all this.
But that's their job to know. But yeah, there's been many discussions over the years that the Secretary of Education should go away, that they shouldn't have one.
Yeah, I've heard that too.
I don't know if that'd make it any better or not.
Well, maybe this would be Exhibit A.
Yeah. But this is not something new. This has been going on for a very long time. I was just kind of Googling around while you were talking. There's an article out there from 2017 about how they were infiltrating back then. So this isn't because of George Floyd, right?
Back to this book of mine, which you can see I've tabbed up,
Well,
and the 17 goals, right? I mean, the 45 goals, of which number 17 is about getting control of the schools. That was from 1958. The book was written, and remember that Skousen, the author, took the content of the book, and especially the 45 goals, from congressional testimony of earlier in the 1950s, meaning 50, I think those committees ran 52, 53, 54, something like that. So this goes back a long, long ways, but we just were not paying attention. And I will have to say this too, the opposition, meaning, the communist Marxist elements, including, for example, the Frankfurt School, are very good at what they do. They're very good at infiltration and propaganda and influencing, and they had an agenda. I mean, they had this blueprint, back as far as the 1930s, because that's when the Frankfurt School and then all of its offshoots came over here to the United States, a project of the Soviet Comintern, Communist International, the vehicle for the spread of communism around the world. And it first established roots in Germany. That's why Frankfurt School, where they thought it would take root, but didn't. And they didn't because of the rise of fascism and Nazism, another story. But from there, they decided, okay, if not Germany, we got to get America. That's the 1930s. So that's how long this has been going on.
Yeah.
But people just didn't pay attention.
Yep. You mentioned the book. Somebody threw a question in here before we get to all of them. I wanted Dick to be able to talk to it, but you mentioned the book. Can you read off the full name of the book? Somebody was asking.
Sure. It is called The Naked Communist. The Naked Communist. And the author is W. Cleon, C-L-E-O-N, Skousen, S-K-O-U-S-E-N. And it's on Amazon. It's a paper book, a paperback. It's, not terribly expensive.
All right, Dick, I'll let you before we jump into all the questions from our attendees. And we've got quite a list of people that are on YouTube as well, so I'm trying
Okay, good.
Well, I think you used the word kowtow, and I think that's a great word to pull back in. If you think about all of the people that had to participate in the infiltration over the years, you think about a teacher. I mean, we've always looked up to our teachers. And by the way, I did decline sentences, and I actually liked it.
You remember that, right?
Oh my God, yeah, no, that was a good memory. It was important. By the way, some of us actually, were paid to be able to write words at work and make sense and so on. And I'm very, very concerned about your examples of the new standards for kind of sort of, but not really English. I think that's really worth looking at and understanding. So we've got the teachers union. They're very, very powerful, and they seem to have no problem, not just with the linguistic standards dropping, but even the moral standard. I mean, really, the morality that's embedded in this, or the immorality or amorality that's involved in all of these things, is really extraordinary, as well as the targeting of people that happen to have lighter skin as being a clear political enemy. And it's okay. I mean, obviously, we've all seen the videos. It's okay to loot because that's some kind of making up for reparations that are owed, etc. And the whole mentality about just blaming white people for everything and then opening the door to any kind of behavior. So this is a really, really dangerous time. It's a lot more than just the notion that we don't decline sentences anymore.
Oh, yes.
We don't really focus on right and wrong or personal responsibility anymore.
Could I jump in just really quickly at this point, this juncture, Dick, excuse me. I reached again for the book, and I turned to chapter 13, the 45 Goals of Communism Today. Let me read to you just two more of these goals really quickly. Number 24 of 45 is, quote, eliminate all laws governing obscenity by calling them censorship and a violation of free speech and free press. Number 25, quote, break down cultural standards of morality by promoting pornography and obscenity in books, magazines, motion pictures, as they called them then, radio, and TV.
Well, let me complement that. I'm going to take what you said just to a little bit different level. We didn't really talk about it before. I just happened to have this in my hands. This is a book about what's inside the covers of children's books. I mean, 3-year-olds.
Yeah.
These are the pretty picture books that you can get in any public library that grandma can order online and send to the 3-year-old granddaughter. and that the 7-year-old who just learned how to read can read to his 3-year-old sister. This is a book called Between the Covers, What's Inside a Child's Book by Deborah DeGroff, who I just met last month. This is incredible. The same things you're saying about. She has basically come across notions that a 3-year-old child is exposed to books which are clearly LGBT, just like you were giving examples, clearly about not just activism, but racism and white supremacy. This is for 3-year-old children in fancy picture books that you might think of that are like Disney kind of books. I'm not saying they are Disney books, but the insidiousness of bringing that to a 3-year-old girl or a 4-year-old boy and having parents and grandparents not really understanding what's going on. So this is just another dimension of the very important topic that you brought up. It's overwhelming what those people are willing to do and bring to the children that we hold dear and we're supposed to mold.
Yeah, that's exactly what's going on, and for way too long without our noticing.
Well, schools became the babysitter, and so once the kids were gone, the parents didn't have to think about them. Now all of a sudden they've got the kids coming back, and they're now in the streets, and they're beating and violence, and so they wonder why, now that they've gone through all of the indoctrination in the schools, why they're doing what they're doing.
Yeah.
Because the parents never engaged.
Well, I think the whole country is paying for that as
Yeah.
a generational issue. I think we need to be very blunt about it, and I think your contribution tonight, Claire, is indispensable, and we're looking forward to the article, of course. A couple of quick dots, since you mentioned the Horowitz community. I think that was very, very important, and you mentioned some other people that we know are involved in that. The coincidence is Claire is also associated, as we are, with the United West. And the United West has a person named Tom Trento who is interviewing on a regular basis. Mary, do you want to talk about that? David Horowitz, right?
Yes, that's right. That's right. Yeah, yeah.
So Mary, tell us about those interviews for a minute.
They are so good. I just sit there and soak up everything David has to say. All Tom has to do is say a couple of words, and David is off, and he's just telling us everything about how he was a liberal. He knows how to speak to it. He knows what they've got planned. He knows how they're coming at us in every direction. And he is so frank with them and so honest and upfront in telling them that he knows what they're doing. You and I, who maybe have been conservatives all our life, maybe not, I don't know, but at the end of the day, he lived amongst them. So now he can speak to them and they can't pull anything over on him. Mm-hmm. And he is so good at this. And we're doing a weekly interview with him. We've been doing them now. We just did one today, probably 4 weeks into them. And we have video coming out. There's, probably a handful. We've got 4 videos, I think, out already, but there's sound bites all through every one of them. And we're promoting his 2 books as well. So for a donation to the United West, you can get one or both books. His Blitz or Dark Agenda. And both of them speak to how Trump needs to be reelected, but what they're trying to do to take Christianity out of America. And if we don't have Christianity in America, David even says, as a Jew, that it's the Judeo-Christian foundation that brought us America. And if they take that away, America is gone. So he calls himself an agnostic Jew, but listening to him speak, he probably knows more about Christianity than many pastors.
I will jump in again. I mean, you really have to read this book, or at least chapter 13 of it. Goal number 27, infiltrate the churches and replace revealed religion with social religion, discredit the Bible, and emphasize the need for intellectual maturity, which does not need a religious crutch. 29, discredit the American Constitution. 30, discredit the American founding fathers. I could go on and on. I won't read you all 45, but you get the drift.
That's right. And that,
when you see them all together in one list, and you realize in 2020, how we have been just having, the flashlights go off in our eyes day after day after day as these things are visibly being accomplished. And for the most part, the pushback is yet to come. It's there, but we are seeing those goals are screaming at us. So it's great to bring them up again and again.
And again. Well, let's get to a couple of questions here. People have been waiting patiently. We've got two that are referencing AB 5, and I guess I missed that. AB 5 denies tutors the right to act as independent contractors in California. Do you know what that is?
I am not familiar with it. It sounds like a bill, what in the California legislature, I guess, but I have to admit I do not know what that's about. I'd be glad to hear more.
Okay.
I guess a lot of the things that people refer to, most people outside of California don't know of, are either a bill or some kind of a ballot initiative that is on the books to be passed or been passed, and they just throw those letters around, but it's probably some kind of a statewide initiative that may already be in place.
Right.
To your knowledge, are public school systems legally obliged to give parents, grandparents information about their curriculum?
No, they're not. And remember that school board matters are local. And here again, I can't emphasize how important it is to take seriously elections at the local level. You know, we can talk about city council, we can talk about the library board, nothing more important than the school board, because that's where decisions like which textbooks will be used, what will the curriculum be, where questions like those are answered with or without parental input. Only if the parents find out, then they have a chance for input, because there are school board meetings. And I think that for the most part, it is the law that parents may participate in those school board meetings. But sometimes even the school board meetings are held on the sly, unannounced, quietly, that the parents don't even know they're happening. So all of which is to say, pay attention to your local school board. And it is different, I think, in each jurisdiction, but it's so important whom you elect to your local school board.
And I think you need to be aware of, I've seen this repeatedly in the school board candidates. If you do your research, you'll find that many candidates for school board were previously connected to the profession and in the union. The union actually ends up helping their people get on the boards, and then the board negotiates with itself. When it talks to the union, not just about wages, but curriculum and everything else, frequently you have a meeting with two sides that are actually part of one collection. And that's not uncommon, unfortunately, again, because people are not paying attention.
Okay, we've got one comment and one question. The comment was, and you probably already know this, but the Democrat National, and I'm going to say Democrat, not Democratic, because it's a real pet peeve of mine.
That's right.
Democrat National Convention last week omitted the reference to God. And I think that was in their Pledge of Allegiance. They took it out even. Did you hear about that?
I think I did. I think I read that. I did not see it or any video or anything, but I did. I think I saw something about that written later. Yeah.
I think Trump was asked about it today. I think I watched him speaking at the RNC today. And he was talking about it, saying that, he was asked about it. Then he said, I kind of heard that, and then I thought, well, maybe they didn't have it on the prompter right. Maybe it wasn't in their script right. Maybe it was just an accident, right? And he's telling this, and I'm just laughing because he knows what really happened.
I bet he does.
Yeah. So they took it out. Interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, they got it out of their convention, in 2016? Now it's out of the Pledge of Allegiance, too. Wow. So, let's see. Somebody wants to know about the book Between the Covers. Who is the author?
Okay, the author is Deborah DeGroff. It's DeGroff. Deborah DeGroff, DeGroff. And there is a website. I believe the website is what's inside children'sbook.com. Could be, I believe that's the case. We can get that to Mary and
Okay.
get it.
Yeah, we'll put it in the post after this. I think
Okay.
that's pretty much the last of the questions. Dick, if you want to.
Well, I think there was a comment a little bit about international baccalaureate and other things that we've known about in the past. There are plenty of international standards, Common Core, etc., that have been injected into the American culture and the American. And the key thing to remember is all of these curriculums are typically associated with grants and grant money.
Yeah.
Where we could be really concerned, I don't know if it is the case, but in the past, departments of education have facilitated with grant money all kinds of things that certainly under the Obama administration, I just don't know what's happening with that, with Betsy DeVos, but under the Obama administration, this was a major way to promote all of this activity. And I don't think there's any substitute really for parents to just get involved on a consistent basis. And I think you've hit the nail on the head. The way to do that would be as the school year begins to spend time online with your students getting educated, whether they're in the first grade or the 12th grade, and use it as an opportunity to do what people used to do, which is communicate your own thoughts, your own value system. You can sit there and look at even an English class, obviously, and see what's going on and inject yourself. To me, that's the gift you give your child. And we're a long way to go, but hopefully your children as individual human beings are still salvageable. And I can't think of anything you'd rather do, and I know that you already know that. Maybe this is a grandparents' initiative as well.
Well, if I could do this.
Questions, Mary?
What's that? Yeah, that's all the questions. The David Horowitz Center, the Front Page Mag had an article a few days ago, the 20th, by a gentleman, Don Feder, not Federer, Feder, F-E-D-E-R. How to be a 21st century patriot. We always get questions, what can we do? How can we stand up? What's the best way to address all of this stuff? He listed out 21 things that you can do. Won't cost you a dime. And I'm not gonna read all 21, but I thought it was so good. I actually have it posted on the United West as well. Fly the flag. Oh my gosh, how easy is that, right? Fly the flag, and I have it flying right in front of my driveway. Thank police officers and soldiers for their service. Do it on a regular basis every time you see them. Thank you for your service to the community. And that's something that is so easy to do and shows them really a lot of respect. Learn about the United States Constitution. You know, I'm finding there's a lot of websites that are offering free constitutional courses.
Mm-hmm.
You can go on any time of the day or night. Webinars and videos. Learn about the United States Constitution. That's how you're going to combat all of this stuff. Vote. Oh my gosh, vote. Elections have turned on a handful of ballots. It is so important to vote this election season. And this one I liked. Number 12, become a gun owner if you are not one already. I think it's smart to do. 14, understand that being an American is about heart and mind. Patriots come in all colors. 15, fight those who would destroy statues and other monuments. 16, protect faith from the secularists' onslaught. 19, stand with Israel. Always. America and Israel are two nations inextricably bound. So stand with Israel. And this one is the last one. Acknowledge America's debt to the president. He's appointed judges who abide by the Constitution and deployed agents to protect federal property, including monuments, from rioters. He's working to defend the border. He has an American first foreign policy. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but it is so critical. This is such a good list. It's out on Front Page Mag. It was from Don Feder. You know, you look for just little things people can do. Right there you go.
Claire, give us the title of the article that we should expect. Exactly what do you think that headline is going to be?
Well, the way I submitted it, I turned it in as California schools kowtow to the BLM's Marxist agenda. Now, they may or may not keep it exactly that way, but that's how I turned it in.
And so an action item for the audience that we really appreciate your being with us week after week. Get the article, get that out to people, start a conversation. This could be a real conversation that would cut across a lot of different maybe people who are, you know, they may be on different sides of a lot of things, but they might come together on this content. So look for the article, look for the recording that'll be out on YouTube later on, and of course we'll send out a link to it during the rest of the week. I'm just going to jump at a couple of administrative things, Claire, and then pitch it back to you for a final comment. We have another webinar this week. Yeah, this is a double week. On Thursday we have, that would be the 27th, Dr. Mark Christian will be with us from his location in Omaha, and Dr. Mark Christian has a very, very special guest this week, and that would be Trevor Loudon. And they're going to talk about their own news analysis. You can imagine the kind of things that these two people, knowledgeable in the Marxist revolution, knowledgeable in the Muslim Brotherhood, are going to get into. So that's this Thursday night at 7 p.m. Next Monday night, we have Leo Holman on with us. And then we're going to continue right on through the election. I want you to look at every Monday that you've got down there. We will be back with Claire and Christine and Leo throughout the election. There'll definitely be a webinar on September the 7th. Mary and I are putting that one together, so there'll be webinars every Monday night right on through the election day. We can all guess where we might be on the Monday after the election. We'll just leave that open for now. That would be perhaps a great time to discuss what happens next. So, Claire, based on the topic tonight, what would be your final comment to the audience?
Well, I think I'll repeat what I said a bit ago, and that is please pay attention to your local election races. There's nothing more important than voting at the local level, and especially for school board members. Pay attention to who they are, what their backgrounds are, what their platforms are, and also be sure to encourage and promote new young candidates who might be thinking about getting into politics, perhaps at the local level like this. I mean, that's the place to start. So pay attention to your school board. It's so important.
Okay, with that, I think we're going to be saying good night, Mary.
Let me just one last comment to what Claire just said. Yes, the Dallas salon owner that got into so much trouble and arrested, she's running for state senate in Dallas.
Good for her. All right.
So yes, it's happening. So, and the other comment I wanted to say before we close it out is Fauci and Birx have come out in the last few days and said it's safe to go to the voting polls, to go to the booth and do in-person voting. Thank you. Wasn't that wonderful they let us do that? Sorry.
Right. And I think the other good news is we're beginning to see therapeutics that are being talked about as practical. Some people that have worked with us on the webinars are actually engaged. Remember, we did publicize America's First Line Doctors. You can go to americasfirstlinedoctors.com, pick up the news there. You'll see specific information about things you may want to do related to individual opportunities to, again, look into the therapeutics, find out what's available, look at your own situation. You can work with doctors online. It's very, very doable. So we need to be optimistic and not want to use the word progressive, proactive, related to our own health. We have to be healthy. Our families have to be healthy so we can continue to keep America free. And we need to be a healthy country that finds our courage again right on through the election. So with that, I think we'll thank everyone. Thank you, Claire, very, very much. Look forward to seeing you on Thursday night at 7 p.m. This week with Dr. Mark Christian and his guest, Trevor Loudon. Thank you. Good night.
Good night, everybody.